So we heard, obviously, this yesterday, this came out, that there are now rumors circulating that Liz Truss has gone and taken advice from not only legal experts, but trade experts to essentially go forward and trigger Article 16. And we've talked, I don't know, numerous times on this channel about Frost's threats to trigger Article 16. And of course, he would never, ever do that. He was never fully authorized to do that. He would at least need the Prime Minister at the time, Boris Johnson, to be able to do that. But of course, you've now got the point of Liz Truss is now the Prime Minister. She has been a massive advocate, along with Frost, calling for the triggering of Article 16. And she is going to be Prime Minister. There is no if, ands, or buts. She is going to be Prime Minister in what? Less than this time next week, we will be 2 days away from finding out that she has won. And the big worry that we are now worried about is that within the first few days, Liz Truss will come in and trigger Article 16. And I don't know how many times we've talked about this before. The idea that the Northern Ireland Protocol is not working is wrong. Is it perfect? No. Can these issues be sorted? Yes, but they can only be sorted if both the EU and the UK sit down and negotiate them. And the EU is more than willing to sit down and negotiate. It is said several times there are problems with the Northern Ireland Protocol, so let's sit down and talk about them. Let's negotiate these things through. But the British government has no interest in that because it's currently taken up by this right-wing lunatic fringe who have basically gone and said any talks with the EU at all are a complete betrayal of Brexit and should not be countenanced at all because this is part of their ideology. And of course, part of their big thing in the Brexit ideology was we do not need Europe. And as a result, it's very, very much looking like at this moment in time, Truss will trigger Article 16 when she gets in, and that will kick off a whole series of new problems with this in this saga. So with that said, let's get into this then. So before we do continue into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So here's today. We go over to The Guardian with the title of Liz Truss may trigger Article 16 days after becoming PM amid Brexit row. Liz Truss may trigger Article 16 proceedings against the European Union within days of becoming Prime Minister, as now a legal war with Brussels looms over the Northern Ireland Protocol. The Foreign Secretary and the Tory leadership frontrunner is understood to have received fresh advice from trade and legal experts about invoking these emergency clauses contained in the post-Brexit deal. This has long been threatened by Truss, but it is renewed interest as the deadline approaches for the UK to respond to the legal proceedings launched against it by the EU for it failing to implement the proper Irish Sea border checks. As we've said multiple times before, the EU is implementing this. These problems around the Northern Ireland Protocol, most of the problems are from the British side. The entire protocol itself was a creation by the UK. And now it refuses to almost implement its own ideas because it might be seen as weakness. And they do not want to be seen as giving in to the EU. They want to appear, we are strong standing up against the EU, which again is this is why this is pointless nationalism. But there you go. The deadline for doing so is the 15th of September, 10 days after the Prime Minister will be announced. This lengthy parliamentary battle will be expected over the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, and a senior Truss ally, quoted in the Financial Times, described the triggering of Article 16 as a stopgap until the legislation is passed. And this doesn't even solve this solution. If you pass this legislation, it does not stop this because you are trashing an international treaty just to get your way, just to have your way with it. And this isn't a one side gets to decide this. We've explained this multiple times. If you are going to do this, then there has to be a hard border. It's either in the Irish Sea or it's in between the North and the Republic. You cannot have that one there because the Good Friday Agreement explicitly says you cannot have one. So you've got to have one in the Irish Sea. But of course, that's the point where the DUP throw their arms up and go, we do not want a border in the Irish Sea. So you can see, as we've said before, this is just a constant merry-go-round carousel. Always will be. So, though the source said that Truss would prefer a negotiated solution with Brussels, triggering of Article 16 remained an option as long as the talks remained deadlocked. Truss's apathy towards the protocol has grown in recent days after British steel producers were told that they would have to pay a 25% tariff to sell some construction products into Northern Ireland. The triggering of Article 16 would allow either side to take unilateral action if they believed the protocol was causing serious economic, societal, or environmental difficulties that are liable to persist, or a diversion of trade. Serious difficulties, of course, are not defined, giving both sides room for interpretation. The UK government has long said that triggering Article 16 remains an option, and some will view the renewed discussion as the possibility of sabre rattling designed to try and please the ardent Brexit supporting Tory party members who will choose the next Prime Minister. Over the past year, Truss has studiously lobbied for Tory MPs believed to have concerns about her plans in an attempt to try and avoid a return to divisions that plagued the Conservatives from 2016 to 2019. Sources said that the Foreign Secretary wanted the government to appear united, or else Brussels would believe that its threats were empty because the Conservative backbenchers could torpedo most of the controversial elements of the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill. John Furness, the Sinn Féin MP for North Belfast, said the reckless threats to trigger Article 16 were evidence of the UK's government's total disregard for the democratic wishes of the people and businesses here. He said the protocol was mostly supported by people, companies, and the elected politicians in the Northern Ireland Assembly, but the Conservatives had tried to fiercely undermine it. And Fugan argues that Truss tried to, quote, get back to the table with the EU to give any certainty and stability to our businesses. Earlier this month, the UK triggered its own disputings with the EU, accusing it of breaching the Brexit Treaty by freezing it out of the scientific research programme following the row over Northern Ireland. And that was always going to happen with Horizon. That was always going to happen. That wasn't, they can say it's a dispute, but at the end of the day, if you're not contributing to Horizon, you can't really be a part of it. So that's obviously probably going to end up being lost. I highly suspect. It's already a massive blow to British science anyway when that happens. Truss said that there had been a clear breach with the Trade and Cooperation Agreement and sent the department right into Brussels requesting a formal dispute talks. The UK government has claimed that the EU is causing serious damage to research and development in both the UK and EU member states. Well, it's certainly not causing damage to the EU member states. But with Britain frozen out of the science research programme Horizon, Competus, the Earth Observation Programme, which provides data on climate change, Euratom, and the Nuclear Research Programme, and space surveillance and tracking. Again, if you're not going to be in the EU, all of which these are EU programs, well, we warned about this. All these programs that once we stepped out of the EU and became a third country, which is what the Brexiteers are now advocating, always that we want to become this third country. Well, the EU is treating us like a third country. The steel tariffs, we're a third country. Those tariffs aren't going to go away at this point because that stuff coming into sort of Northern Ireland, you don't really know where that is going to go. And even if you do create this dual lane system, you've still got no guarantee that stuff that was meant to be going to Northern Ireland doesn't end up in the EU. And this all goes back to, if you may remember, all the way back to this book here, Brexit, What the Hell Happens Now by Ian Dunn. Ian Dunt said it very, very plainly as well, all the way back in 2016. Look, all these ideas that the Conservative have would end up turning Northern Ireland into a massive state-sanctioned smuggler state, and that will cause huge problems within itself. So the big problem here is that the Tories refuse to admit that Northern Ireland, first of all, was ever going to be a problem. Back in 2016, they were dismissing that the problems here would not be a problem because, after all, they were saying, well, we're going to stay in the single market customs union, right? Only a fool would talk about leaving those. And of course, well, what's happened? And now they are desperate to drag Northern Ireland out of the single market customs union because they are so worried that you've got this perfect test case of this part of the UK that is in the single market customs union that is already doing far, far better than any other region of the UK, of course, apart from London, because, well, it's London. They do not want that to remain the case. So they're trying to do as much as possible to try and drag Northern Ireland out, but that causes other problems. And they don't seem to acknowledge that this was always going to be a problem, that and I've always said it, you can solve this problem very quickly by just rejoining the single market customs union. That's how you solve this problem. And this could lead to, all sorts of really bad consequences going on in Northern Ireland, really bad consequences. But again, this is the fault of the Brexiteers who said Northern Ireland, not going to be a problem. Once again, the fault of the Brexiteers that they should take responsibility for, but refuse to take any accountability what they've done in this situation. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.